Good morning, Southwest Florida, and welcome to the American Tradesman Show with my guest, Brian Prevette from Prevette Plumbing and Gerald Prevette from B&K. Good morning, fellas.
Good morning.
Are we missing somebody today?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're missing our high hole Silver, Juan Silver from American Electrical. He's out today, a little bit of baby duty. But we miss you, Juan. Get back soon. So listen, good morning. I want to kind of talk about Easter. It's coming up soon. Brian, what do you think? You ready for your Easter basket?
Oh, yeah. The Cadberries.
Cadberries.
That's right.
I was going to bring up chocolates because, during Valentine's, Brian is a little bit, happy about Valentine's, candy, but I guess he's just told me Cadberries. Mm-hmm. Gerald, are you a Cadbury man?
I don't know, man. That's kind of sketchy to me when a bunny lays an egg.
It comes out looking like a Cadbury?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Brian and I love candy, though. It's just kind of Cadbury. I mean, it is the best kind of chocolate, right, Brian?
Oh, yeah.
Well, fellas, we had to take a week off, but we're back on. I mean, today we're going to talk about mold. I mean, mold goes everywhere, right, Gerald?
It does.
I mean, a part of all of the homes in Southwest Florida and probably the United States is mold is everywhere, and it's due to, humidity factor, which is very high in Florida, right?
Yeah, the weather conditions in Florida are very conducive to, mold. And there are the factors in our homes that, sometimes your contractors, when they build these homes, especially if you have an older home, may have skimped on back in the day, and now you have a moisture in your wall, or if you have
insulation, right? I mean,
yeah.
The insulation values, I got to tell you, it's changed. Even if they've blown the insulation in, right, Brian? So that stuff used to blow into your face when you're trying to clear all in the attics. But the insulation values now have changed. I mean, the home that I built out in the Estates has isonine, which is spray foam. But that's an R value that's really, in my opinion, probably the best way to do it is to spray a home. But I do know from a standpoint of moisture, I mean, we do see a lot of moisture on the windows in the summertime, which people don't recognize. But as much as the moisture you see on the windows is most likely the same situation on the block wall, right?
That is correct, and that's something I really wanted to touch on, because a lot of your exterior walls in the older condos, you're going to have insulation, and then they cover this insulation with a plastic. And so what happens is, and if you've ever seen a survival show, when you get a heat trap, with that plastic, you'll actually form a condensation on that plastic. And that's what really happens a lot inside of a lot of these older condos that have that issue. And so when that condensation builds up inside that wall, inside the plastic, the insulation, stores it. And once the insulation gets too full, that's going to run down the wall. And when that does, you really won't see that until it becomes a real big problem on the outside. But the interior and that little gap in there with the little wood slats, that's going to backside of that drywall and everything will be filled with mold from all this moisture that's being trapped in that wall. And that's something, that, in a lot of these older condos, you really need to, once you get a remodel done, pull that insulation off, have it redone with a proper vapor barrier and proper insulation put back.
I got to tell you, a lot of remodels, when you take the drywall around the windows, right, Brian?
Oh, yeah.
A lot of times you see the black mold, and it was what brought this up today for Gerald and I talked about mold, because it's an important part of the factor during dry season, I think, a lot more than it is the wet season. People cough and sneezing more during the dry season because of winter colds, and I guess that illustrious, right, Brian, coronavirus. I think just trying to sell Corona a little bit more. What do you think? I think this is a peak for Corona to get a good deal on beer, right?
Trying to make a comeback on Modelo.
Right. That's right. So, in the sense of mold, though, it is part of what we have to live with on a daily basis by sleeping in the air conditioning and all the dust and everything that sucks up into it. It's a mess every time in the home. And one of the things that was brought up from us, Matt Langley, he's one of my radio producers. He's our salesman, and he told me today that he had called Brian and Gerald on the question on doing the testing. Is that right, Gerald?
That's correct.
And obviously you guys don't do the testing, but in the sense of what you guys do is you do the remediation, right?
That is correct. And the protocol for that a lot of times is when you have something that, you're pretty sure is going to be a mold issue, contact your insurance company, because what happens then is your insurance company automatically is going to send out somebody for the air quality testing as well as a mold assessment. And it's up to usually the homeowner as to who they would like to use for the remediation. But the insurance company is going to use their own people for your air quality test and your mold assessment. And so the way that works is the person who's performing the air quality test and the assessment, they're going to come out, they're going to use cassette reels, some form of air quality testing. And they're going to do an indoor sample and they're going to do an outdoor sample. And basically what you're doing with that is you're going to use the two to compare. You need a control in that scenario, and you need to know what your spore count is for the exterior versus the interior. Because, if your spore count for the exterior is only a tenth of what it is for the interior, you have a severe microbial issue inside the home. And so they're using this. And then by doing that, they can also break down which strain of mold you actually have in there. And they're going to do this by rooms to tell you what the problematic areas are in the home. And that'll also let you know whether that, just a certain area is infected, or if you also have your ductwork. And that's key, because the air quality in your home can be severely compromised if somewhere near your return or your unit in the home you have a infestation break out, because once that happens, now these spores have been removed from that area and traveled throughout the whole place. And sometimes you can get away with just a simple cleaning of the ductwork, but sometimes, if it's too severe, then the ductwork is going to have to be dealt with as well.
Yeah, one of the things I am a fan of, I will say, is, the ductwork, if you're going to replace the air handler, I would suggest highly to replace the ductwork completely. I'm not a fan of cleaning ductwork unless it was a metal ductwork, like a commercial building where you could put a brush through it and a solvent, and you could clean the metal ductwork. The things that we've known, and then Brian will even say that, is that when we go up in the attic, Brian, that's not that's not lately, but
It's been a while.
when you go up in the attic and you look and see broken tape, fast tape, right? Air conditioning tape. And a lot of times you'll see that peeled off, or a guy has stepped on a piece of ductwork, right? And the break of that little bit of a ductwork creates the heat from the attic, and the moisture from the cold weather makes it so much, it makes a mold spores right on the ductwork, right?
It is a breeding ground.
It is, I'll tell you, anytime a person goes up in the attic, I would suggest to go up right after them. And I'm not asking the homeowner to do that, but you never know when they get up in the attics. I mean, I was an electrician, Brian, you're a plumber. Sometimes you kick your ductwork, you don't even know it, and you kicked it right off the collar. And next thing you know, the collar's sweating, and right around the ductwork, you got black mold, right?
Yeah. And I remember back in the day, sometimes if you're going to spend 2 or 3 days up in an attic doing a repipe, sometimes you'd actually take a collar off so you got cool air in that area.
And forget to zip tie it back.
Right. Put it back in. We usually have, that wonderful thing called duct tape.
Fast tape. I can say you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. It depends on the sizes of those attics and when you can crawl in there. You sometimes took a ductwork apart a little bit. But, again, I state this again. I'm not the guy, and I will say this again. I know what they do. I've seen ozone machines. I've seen these sprays. I'm not, Dr. Spock, but it just don't seem like it would cover it to me, personally. I could say that because I don't know. I've had ozone machines in my house, and where they use it, they turn it on, and it sucks up into the air. But I don't know if that's really going to kill.
I think what happens with a lot of it is just like everything in life. If it's a situation where someone can't change their ductwork, or for whatever reason, at least trying to make a bad situation a little better.
Yeah, something would have to kill the bacteria. But I got to tell you, a lot of times there's so much ductwork broken up that there's black mold right there.
Well, and the big thing with ductwork when you clean it is a lot of these ductwork in these condos is just duct board, and the things they use to clean the duct board is like little plastic fingers on a little piece that they send through there, and it's so thin. This duct board is so thin that when you do that, you run the risk of one popping through, especially if you have older ductwork, because it does get brittle over time. And then when you have that, you won't be able to tell whether or not you do have a break in a ductwork, other than maybe one day you'll see a little black spot on your ceiling, and they open up the ceiling, and lo and behold, there's a hole in the ductwork where the cleaning, has been done. But I mean, not only that, you're losing R value every time you clean one, because basically what it's going to do is it's going to knock off a layer of the ductwork. And
a little bit of that insulation comes out for some reason too, right?
Yeah, I mean,
right where the drops or supplies from the air conditioning, I can tell you, if you're blown in, you'll start to see stuff all over the ground, right?
Yeah. Plus nowadays, I mean, probably 60-70% of the ductwork is flex,
right?
And you're not going to be able to clean flex with that.
And not to say it, but
yeah,
they zip tie the collar, right? I mean, they fast tape the collar, and then they say it's good. And that's what I say when a guy goes through that attic. He's, bound to kick a piece of ductboard off. Flex duct apart. And I look at that because I know. I mean, I have a house in Fort Lauderdale that's 1972. And that house, remember, Brian? That thing was all ductwork. And I ended up having to have the whole one side of the house cut open just to replace both sides of the ductwork in it. And I got one ductwork it's got a collar with leaks around it. And the moisture is so close to the door that it's got a black mark up there. And it was funny, what brought the conversation up today with me and Matt was, Matt said that he had a little bit of black behind the toilet, right? Did he tell you that, Gerald?
Yeah. That could be bad aim.
Yeah, no. Matt, if you're listening, that could be bad aim. You hear me? That could be a problem right there. But a lot of people, to recognize it, you would see mold. Black spores. Around the toilets. I see that a lot. I see that, in the cabinets. People can take their sink, open their sink and look where the drain is, right? A lot of people don't know sometimes. My own daughter said, hey, the drain was off for 2 days and I got a big pile of water. And it was like, it's hard when you don't see it. And it's just dripping. But, mold, to me, is an important process. I wanted you to take me through that process. Somebody comes in, they get an inspection and they call you up. Tell me what their process is right after that. You pull a permit for this, or?
What's going to happen is first they're going to contact their insurance company. Their insurance company is going to send their own air quality tester and their own assessor out. And once they do that, they're going to put together a plan of action in that assessment. And that is what basically the remediator is going to follow.
Well, a lot of times, from remediation, once they've gotten the remediation into you guys, then you go from that point to giving them an estimate, or do they get an estimate directly from you guys?
It's very hard to estimate out without knowing the full details. Usually you can estimate out through what the assessor gives you, but you're always going to have a clause in there because without opening up the walls, you're not going to know how far that's actually going to travel and what the extent of damage is. And so, we're going to give a number to the insurance company, but we know that sometimes
things change.
Things change. That's correct. And the first thing that happens once we go in is we have to establish a containment barrier. That is your first and foremost plan of action, because what you want to make sure you do is separate your clean side from your dirty side. And so you're going to put up a containment barrier.
Right. Your clean side from your dirty side. That's the ones you don't wear.
You never want to cross-contaminate, unaffected area with an affected area. So, sometimes you're going to have to put filters in place in the wall, depending on what the scenario. Each time, the scenario is going to be different. You're going to have what's called a zip wall in there. Basically what it is like a zipper that you can get in and out with. When you have to put equipment in, sometimes you use two. That way you have a roll-up door to transport equipment in and out of.
So it's like that movies when you used to see them zipping them up and then they walk in and then they zip it back down.
That is correct. You have to keep that
something happened with radiation or something. Is that what it is?
Show decks.
Decks. I don't know.
You have to keep it. You got to keep them separated.
So the reality is that you're telling me, in a sense of it, it's like pinpointing, right? It's
That's
like
correct.
Pinpointing that, and then once you've isolated all of that, right?
Yep.
And then you zip it up and close it off.
And once we close it off, then we're going to move equipment in there. The first thing I'm going to want to move in there is an air scrubber. And what that's going to do is once you start messing with the dry...
I got to stop for 1 second. Just Alex, I want you to listen to this too, man. I mean, just said an air scrubber. All right, just for the audience to listen up. I mean, an air scrubber. Right? Is there a scrubber that scrubs the air?
That is correct. It is called a negative air scrubber. And so what this machine does,
You got one of those in your shower, Brian.
it's got so when we use it, it has one massive HEPA filter, and then we use it with 2 carbon filters. And what it does is it pulls air through the machine, and it's going to remove odors. It's going to remove any kind of small micron particles that are going to be
In that
hazardous.
area.
That is correct.
So
Any
it's kind
spores-
of it's almost like it's sucking it up into this filter. Over.
Correct, and it blows clean air back out. And like I said, this is a 99.9%, HEPA filter. So I mean, it's going to take out almost every particulate that's in the air.
So I don't want to stop you from that point, but so is this after drywall's been taken off?
This is before you start the drywall. That is key that it gets put in. So you have to make sure that you have enough air scrubbers to affect the CFM for the volume of the room that you have. So if you have a 2,000 square foot area, you definitely don't want one small air scrubber. You're going to make sure you have a team of them because, like I said, the CFMs for this air scrubber have to be able
of air scrubbers.
That's correct. They have to be able to rotate this air in enough volume to purify this air because
You want to keep the space under a negative pressure.
it has to stay under negative pressure because once you start messing with this drywall, if it does not, then those particulates are going to make their way somewhere else, and that's the last thing you want. You want to make sure that it's going to pull it.
So that makes sense. I mean, you're contaminating it, right? You're contaminating into a room or an area, right? And once you've contaminated and zipped it up, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to put the machine in to scrub the air.
Correct.
Hypothetically, I keep thinking about 5 little guys running around scrubbing air, but it's a team, right? And so that team is going to scrub the air. As it does that, it's cleaning that room up. Once that room is completely 99% scrubbed, right? Then that's when the drywall is going to be able to come off or no?
Well, we have to make sure we get it down to a negative pressure. So, yes, once it runs for a moment, it starts pulling the air in there to a negative pressure. Then we can start removing the drywall. We have special tools that remove the drywall. We have basically what looks like a drill with a saw on the end, and we attach our HEPA vac to it. So not only are we using the air scrubber to scrub the air that is around, but as we move this drywall, as we cut this drywall, we have a special saw that has the HEPA vac that attaches to it.
And it's a certified HEPA vac, not your HEPA vac from Home Depot.
Yeah, it's not what you see. See, I've been
Right.
as a plumber.
This is not, personally, when you're listening to the audience, if you're listening to what Jill's saying, the process for doing this sounds pretty extensive, listening to it. I mean,
It is.
and in the sense of it, right, Brian, you got to have the right tools. Right. You're not going to go to Home Depot and buy that one that's for $9.99 and think you're going to be able to suck all the bad stuff out, right?
And to be honest with you, I've worked on the plumbing company side of it and been to jobs because we do the plumbing for several high-name remediation companies in town, and they don't realize that we also have a remediation company. But I will go there, and I kid you not, there's two or three different ones. They're in there with rigid shop vacs vacuuming this stuff up, and I cannot tell you how bad that is for any scenario because a rigid paper filter is not going to trap all those mold particles that are going to blow right back out the back.
Plus, the equipment we use, the HEPA vacs, those machines have been certified to government standards to remove a certain percentage. I mean, the only vacuum you can get that will work better than that is if you're doing
It's got to be something from a standpoint of value.
asbestos. That's the only
Well, asbestos,
grade above it.
and
that's a whole
and the
different
mold,
ballgame.
It is a different. I mean, I've been to asbestos. I mean, training my own self, and I've been through where you have to, contain a room, and then you got to look for asbestos. And I mean, I got to tell you, I had to do it from an electrical standpoint because old homes down on Fort Myers Beach were based that way. They had a lot of asbestos in them. And it's funny that you say that because they have asbestos abates, a lot of them doing it. I mean, but asbestos is a whole nother game. I'd be scared of that one because that's another one. But the mold part is interesting to me because, talking to Matt today, Matt was like, my son's got a lot of allergies and he's allergic to mold. And I said, welcome to Florida. Everybody's allergic to mold, right? I mean, that's part of what we all. I mean, I went to one of those tests where they put all them tacks on my back. Have you ever had an allergy test where they put it on your back?
I've had it where they
there's
pricking my arm with different things.
Well, this was like a mat. They put it on my back, and it was like told you what you were allergic to, and it was like, well, Mr. Carlone, you're allergic to 99% of the tacks on here, so you're allergic to everything.
Is that the one where they make you wear like a diaper looking thing? No. Oh, okay. Different test.
No, that was a nursing home.
Did you pass?
That was a nursing home a couple weeks ago. We had to take it over there. But I took it over to test everybody. But, one of the things, like I said, is that, from a mold standpoint, it's important for people to understand. I mean, a lot of people are selling ozone machines attached to air conditioning units, right? I don't know about the bulb. I had the bulb on my air conditioning unit, and I thought it was an expensive feature to replace the bulb.
Yeah, that's a UV light.
It was a hard. I didn't want to get too technical, but I wanted people to understand that bulb was an expensive thing to fight off mold up in the attic. And what I found is every month, 3 months, you need a new UV bulb for $300. And I was like, that's an expensive feature to find out that, there's really, not a lot of things that some people can do except for what Gerald just explained right now. I mean, if you're going to tell me a guy's going to come in and suck it up with a vacuum cleaner, he's going to spray some stuff into your, grills. I had this done. A guy came over, sprayed some stuff onto my return and said, okay, it'll go through the system. And I thought to myself, well, now what? Where's the mold going to go? And he's like, oh, it just kills 99% of the bacteria. And I said, well, so does in Lysol, right? So, it becomes an understanding of when people are selling ductwork cleaning, which is some of the things that I kind of get nervous about. But also, the mold remediation part of it altogether. There's been so many renovations in Southwest Florida in the last 10 years. Since the 2008, when everybody started, changing up. Everybody was buying these flippers down here, and a lot of guys didn't really care how the house looked, right? They were just painting it, and, is that black? Make it white, right? It was not a piece to take out the drywall and a guy replace it with something clean. A guy would paint over it. I've been in homes where there was a whole track right down the middle of the trusses, and, it was obviously, it was the water from the roof that leaked in, and they just painted over it. Well, the mold spores do come through, right?
They do.
And then, not to say it, but nobody really can look up and say, hey, man, I see mold spores. What happens is it vacuums it back up through the air conditioning as you turn the air conditioning. It's almost like sucking air just through the air that's in there. I wish that they could use makeup air on a lot of these returns because then you're getting makeup air circulated through the house rather than the old stagnant. And it keeps the moisture down. Putting isonine in the attics, I can tell you, is more important to me because you can isolate the humidity factor in an attic. You have an isonine roof. An attic is about, Ryan, 76 degrees? It's very, very cool.
Yeah.
And
after the ice.
Once you've sprayed the foam, there is nothing in that attic that makes humidity. I've stuccoed all the way around my attics. On the outside of my soffits, left ventilation on the outside so that I knew that I had a little bit of makeup air coming around. And it made that sense to keep the humidity factor down in my house. I got to tell you, the thermostat's 76 and feels like it's 71.
But listen, if you are going to spray foam in your attics, call a professional. Don't let your husband go up there with a bunch of spray cans from Home Depot because it's totally different product.
If you ever seen that big post on Facebook where the lady thought it was hairspray, she ended up in the hospital and it was a lady with spray foam thought it was her husband's. Thought it was hairspray, and she started spraying. And she started mixing the spray foam up in there. And I got to tell you, I've gotten that stuff on my hands, hair. When it first came out, nobody told us anything. I was putting it in with my hands. It took me 3 days to get it off with primer or something. But, again, finishing up, I wanted to continue on. The process to getting, one process is obviously, Brian, and you both have said it, is to vacuum out all the bad stuff that's in that room or in that infected area, right?
Yeah.
And then once that's happened, what do you do?
So we use the HEPA-Vac as we cut, remove drywall. You're constantly vacuuming. If anything touches the floor, every piece of drywall you pull out, you're constantly vacuuming. People don't realize that, and till they're, you can actually see that process. When somebody comes in and does that, and if they're doing it properly, they don't come through and just tear out a whole bunch of wall, and next thing you know, you've got a pile of stuff in the floor. You have to keep it cleaned as you go. And we bag, everything up 6 mil bags. And once the bag gets full, you actually have to twist it, fold it, and tape it. So you have to make sure that at no point can any air escape from this bag, because once you take it from the contained area to the uncontained area, it has to be completely sealed. And that way you're not cross-contaminating from any of the stuff that's left in that bag. You remove everything that's affected. If you have any form of wood substructure in that wall or anywhere like that, that has to be sanded, sprayed with an antimicrobial, and then any area in there, walls, floors, ceilings, any hard surfaces have to be sprayed with an antimicrobial spray and wiped and cleaned. If you have soft surfaces such as fabrics of any kind, you have to bag that. That's part of contents, so that's up to the owner's discretion as to whether or not they want it thrown away or what. You can't just go throwing it away, but you can't leave that in your containment area, because once it's sanitized, this can become a cross-contaminant and invent the same spores back into there. So this stuff has to be bagged, stored in a place that is safe away from it, and it's up to the owner's discretion to throw out what they would like and keep what they would like. Because, like I said, this is contents. A lot of times you can move contents, but you can't throw away any contents unless, you say it's a vanity and it's completely covered in mold, and of course you're going to have to get rid of it. But, there's a fine line on a lot of contents. Everything must get moved out of that area. Yeah, like once you get it sanded, sprayed, all the wood material, you're going to have to introduce what's called an encapsulate on there. And what that is a sealer. And that sealer has a chemical composition that has an antimicrobial in there as well as a sealant. And so once you spray the encapsulate over any wood surfaces, this wood surface is now trapped, because even with sanding, even with spraying antimicrobial spray on wood, you're never going to remove all the spores because it is a porous building material. And of course, you can't just tear out walls to replace. So a lot of times what they do is we introduce an encapsulate.
Point out to them, too, it's an encapsulant. It's not that primer that you buy to
Kills.
make a black
Something
stain
kills.
or brown stain disappear.
When you said that, I want to kind of make the audience understand also from encapsulate. Is this a chemical, or is that a name of the brand?
This is a chemical. So encapsulate is a form of chemical. It is not a primer for paint. A primer for paint will not hold back mold. It will for a very short period of time. You need what is called an encapsulate, and it comes in many brands in many different forms. You get it in 2 different colors, clear or white. We only use clear. We don't use white because it's a discretion thing. The last thing you want is cut open a wall. And if you see white painted all over everything in there, at some point they've had some kind of remediation. We use clear because it's very discreet. But it has to be put on with a generous application through all wood products. And what that's going to do is any of the microbial that may have been left behind, any spores that may have been left behind, because you're never going to get 100% out, it's going to trap it in there. It's also going to form a seal over this wood. So if you ever reintroduce to water again, you don't have the possibility of a microbial outbreak, because now you have this encapsulate that has an antimicrobial solution bonded in it, so it's not going to allow it to form on that surface because it's no longer a porous building material. It's now the sealer.
When I keep thinking about the porous, or the wood itself. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, and you'll say that too. Not to say, but if I have a framed home, right, 2x4 framed home, not a block home, a lot of times the bathrooms are, melted, right? There's mold all over the bathroom. So showers, a lot of times around the toilets, around the sinks, it is completely mold. Every time you've taken a cabinet out and taken drywall and tile out, you see black, right? And I always think to my own self, this is part of where the problems probably start, right? The bathrooms. I mean, don't get me wrong. The kitchen's probably the sinks, the areas where it's the wet. But it used to be a lot of people used carpet everywhere, and a lot of times carpet would create that problem too. It was funny that you were bringing up how draperies and articles of, owners. Their clothes, right? You made something that made sense is that you would have to get that out of the room, right?
That is correct.
You can't just say, hey, leave it in the closet, it's okay, right? That would be kind of defeating the purpose. In my opinion, I'm thinking what you're saying to me, well, you're going to take the drapes out, take your clothes out, take your shoes out, get them clean.
Sheets, bedding material, couches.
I don't think that happens a lot of times.
No, it does not. So anything
I'm
that's
starting to think, I've been in mold remediation jobs, I see them, and what I'm thinking about is the closet is when I see a guy will put plastic over the closet in front of it, right, the door, and say, okay, that's a good area. And I've been in that situation when the guy goes, that's a good area, that's a good area, this is a good area. And I think to myself, well, what makes it really think? I know around the windows, any windows is going to be black. Not to say it, but around the jams is going to be wet. Depending on how people, preventive maintenance is part of that. Not to say it, Brian, around the windows, if you don't, caulk on windows around them and have somebody kind of painting and keeping the maintenance up, water goes right through that. But that's.
And we knock on like construction and the building and stuff, but that's a portion of what causes a lot of this. But the flip side of that is poor maintenance by homeowners, the property owners, right? Associations,
stucco is
things
not
being
a
caulked,
lifelong.
sealed.
I got to tell you, stucco is not a life. It's funny we're talking about stucco, and I was going to bring this up, but CR Binge Construction,
right? Good guys.
Yes, they are. I've known Randy for close to 25 years, and probably within the next couple of weeks, we're going to get him on the show with his son, and we're going to talk to hopefully Chris and Darren. They have divisions over there at CR Binge Drywall Framing and stuff. Now they are CR Binge Construction or Contracting. So we're going to get Randy out here because I really wanted to talk to him about weatherproofing windows, hurricane windows. They do a lot of stucco, they do a lot of drywall, they do a lot of framing. So it's kind of going to coincide for next week, couple of weeks from now. We're going to talk about their side of it versus how you take the drywall off and how you get back in there and make sure it's clean, right? Go ahead and I want you to finish up, but on the mold side. But your process is to get the drywall out, I'm assuming, and obviously clothes, articles, personal stuff. I would think I see a lot of people put stuff out in the big containers, but some of the things you said, like I said, was I would wonder if they wipe all that stuff back down or they just stick it back in the house and away you go.
Yeah, any hard surface has to be wiped in that containment area. So, walls, windows, cabinets, countertops, everything has to be wiped with an antimicrobial because if it's not, then you're going to have mold spores that are going to settle somewhere, and it's going to be affected once you get done. Then you're still right back at phase one.
So Lysol doesn't help then.
Lysol doesn't help.
I see the guys running around with kilns and they're walking around with a paintbrush and they go, get that spot, get that spot.
I see that quite a bit, and especially with the plumbing company, I'll go somewhere and they'll say, oh, well, I'll just let it dry out, and then I'll throw some kills on top of it. And I try to, stress to people how detrimental that is. Once your drywall has been wet, remove it, period.
When you say that, if a person would really think about this, you're going to put a paint. I'm not knocking on kilns, and I'm not knocking any kind of, repairs for drywall on that side, right? Did you hear what I said? On that side. So drywall's on that side, so I'm going to paint this side of it. I'm good right there. But people don't recognize that it started on the inside.
Yeah, and
that thing is going to be worse.
The inside, you basically have a thin piece of cardboard that has been wet. So, you have the most conducive environment right there for mold. And just a matter of, no time at all, this can turn into a festive breeding ground for mold. And, if your drywall gets wet, it's gonna spawn mold. Period. It may be small amounts, it may be large amounts, but it can be small amounts and be the right strand. And say it's in your shower, or if it's somewhere, all it needs is a light fixture to pull a little gap right there for your air to pull right by it. And next thing you know, you're pulling a bad strain of mold throughout the whole unit. And that's a scenario where, just several weeks ago when I was talking on the show about this, unit, the lady's developing a tickle in her throat and a cough, and she's had it now for the past couple of years. And, to be inside of her home, it was immaculate. And then to open up the walls after the year prior, she had a very large restoration company go in. And I mean, these guys, you see their vehicles everywhere. This is probably one of the largest ones in the area. And they really did not take out hardly any drywall. They took out about a 6 foot long section, 2 foot high, and they said, "Hey, you're good."
It's funny you said that. They're good, but in the larger homes, I hate to say this, but in the larger homes, you can notice that those homes have somewhat of a mold smell when you walk in if they're not being occupied. Most of the homes that I see, even from my wife's standpoint, is that in the newer homes, you smell the new home look, right? But as you get in 5 and 6 years later into a home, there's always that twinge of mold smell because the larger the homes, the more moisture. I know that. And that's one of the problems I do see.
Yeah, I mean, in this one, like I said, dining room, kitchen, I mean, she's got 10-foot walls. I'm going floor to ceiling, pulling it out because it's all infested with mold. I had to tear out her kitchen. It was infested with mold. She had a drop-down area above the bar in her kitchen, a little drop-down like a ceiling, and I had to tear all that out because it was infested with mold.
Yeah, I couldn't believe how bad that was when you showed me the pictures and stuff.
And it was. And like I said, this reputable company missed all this. She's been dealing with this. I mean, I can look at it and tell it's been going on for at least 6 to 8 years, and they missed every bit of that. And this is in the dining room, the kitchen, and I mean,
that just comes down to not really isolating really where it was at. They just, companies come in from the insurance side, and the insurance company is going to come in and say limited amount, right?
Correct.
They're not going to go in and say take the whole house apart, because I myself and all of us have dealt with the insurance companies over the years, and getting them to coincide with everything you've asked for them to do. It was funny because you can get an estimate, but the estimates will change based on when you open the doors and open the windows and really start to take things. And this is where a lot of times insurance companies get, back at, they don't want to really give you anything anymore then.
No, I mean, it originated, with the original portion of it. It was the dining room, backside of the bar for the kitchen, because that's where the water came down the wall. But because of the length of time that this water has been introducing itself into her unit, I mean, it affect upper, lower cabinets, the wall all the way up. I mean, you're talking about a 10-foot tall wall. It was, I think, like 26 foot long, had to be removed because it's just highly infested. I mean, and it started out with a 10-foot section, and a whole kitchen had to be removed. And here she's having to struggle with her insurance company to try to get all this resolved and paid for. But I mean,
it's a tough thing. You give so much money all the time, right?
Yeah.
You pay into the insurance company. When you pay into the insurance company, you're really you're at the mercy of them. Look what happened during the hurricane. You were at the mercy of them giving you anything back. There's still roofs not repaired. I mean, my own house in Fort Lauderdale is not repaired.
And especially because they just paid out a claim the prior year.
Yeah.
And here it's the same, scenario again, but on a much grander scale. And it's not her fault, and it's really not the insurance company's fault. What it really boils down to was that remediator, because that should have been caught then. And I mean, here, she's been subjected to another year of poor health conditions in her home, as well as now she's probably going to get dropped by her insurance company once the claim goes through, because this all didn't get resolved then.
And you got to remember, this was like ongoing moisture present for a long time. Right. But you have scenarios where, like, sometimes inside a wall, you may have like a company come out and just dry the unit that's been wet.
Right.
But there's been microbial growth on the backside of the walls. The place gets dried out. You may not know that there's microbial growth in the wall, and it's almost like a dormant until moisture. You get right. Another dose of moisture, and then it becomes active again.
So it could be something so small as a leak in the wall or anything, as long as that dormant microbial that may be trapped in that wall gets reintroduced to water, you'll have a massive manifestation. Then all of a sudden, it grows wild. And then that can be the killer, because you won't realize it until it's bad. And I mean, you have to think that it's going to have to travel through that piece of cardboard on the back of the drywall and a half inch of drywall. And
I mean, I'll be honest. I stick more on the plumbing side. I stay away from the mold part. You know, I'm a little older than Gerald.
Because you bite your fingernails?
Yeah, well, I'm a little older than Gerald.
Well,
you know, even though, you know, I'm in better shape and my health is better. But,
better looking.
Yeah, I truly am.
You should see him. The audience should see Brian. I mean, this is one beauty. I mean, that's why you listen to us. You don't want to see us, right? It's all about listening, not seeing us.
But when I go to these jobs, like after he's done the remediation and maybe we're hooking something back up and reinstalling a water heater or a faucet or something like that, just the smell in the unit, you know, you don't have any allergy symptoms. You know, it's just amazing. You know, I mean, it makes a big difference. I mean, people that have mold, once they get it clean, I mean, it's just life changing.
Do you have to test it after everything's back up?
That is correct. There's a post test after the remediation is done to ensure that the remediation is done correctly.
So, I mean, I know there's a test after that. It was one of the questions I really kind of wanted to get back to you, but we kind of take a break between the radio. I mean, and kind of give a shout out to the small companies of America, right? The people that believe in America, love God, love America. That's what this radio show is about. We always ask if you have any questions out there to email us. The show today, or the topic today, is about mold. Correct, Gerald?
That's right.
And we're going to kind of subway into that maybe in the next week about replacement of windows and understanding where mold comes from the window side, from a company called CR Binge Contracting. They do drywall framing and stucco. They are a general contractor as well. They do a lot of the repairs for the drywall once it's remediated, right, Brian? Oh, yeah. So, you know, we wanted to give a shout out to CR Binge Contracting, and Randy Binge over there, and his sons Chase and Chris and his brother Darren. I mean, they have their own divisions in a sense. Darren running drywall and Chris running the framing, and Chase, I think he gets the mixed buckets of stucco, don't he?
He gets. Well, I saw him on a high-rising Pelican colony today. So
he's working then.
Yeah,
his dad's got him working.
Yeah,
yeah. I kind of told Randy that you're going to have to come on the radio show because, you know, it's part of being an owner, right, Gerald?
That's right.
And it's funny because Randy goes, "Well, I'm from Louisiana, though." And I go, "This is going to be good." I got one Mexican, one Georgia, one Central Florida, one WAP. I mean, we're batting 1,000 on the radio show. It's going to sound like a colorful radio show, but Randy has a very world of knowledge from CR Binge. I mean, they're very knowledgeable people on all the aspects of contracting. But, you know, it's something that we're going to start to try to move into. We're talking about mold today. I said I gave a shout out to CR Binge, Randy, and them. And Gerald, you got something to shout out for the small company out there?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to John Pretty with House Masters. Also want to give a shout out to Rod Stearns over there at Stearns Motors.
Rod.
Yeah.
You buying more vehicles?
We always getting more vehicles.
Oh, yeah.
Stearns buying vehicles.
A commercial vehicle. So if you have needs for a commercial vehicle, Rod can get it. If you need a slightly used car that's in great shape from an honest car dealer, and I know that sounds like something that's out of a fairy tale, but they really are an honest car dealer.
And they've been around here for a long time. The Stearns family have been around a long time.
Yeah, they've been here
Good
since
people.
the 70s.
I mean, I remember Jack sold me my very first van, and I can only say I'll never forget buying my van from Stearns Motor. That was my very first electrical van, Brian, from Stearns Motors. I won't forget that. That was on Davis Boulevard. What are they on Davis?
You know, you still see the dad there now. He works just as hard as anybody.
Yeah, I gotta say, it's better off to work that because if you don't work, you end up passing away. I want to give a shout out to Michael. You remember Michael? Brian, up down at the end, the Ironworks guy, Michael from Custom Oriental. He's doing some gates for me, and I wanted to give him a shout out. I mean, Mike's doing a lot of ironwork for me, and I've known Mike for a long time. We lived down the street for each other for almost 15 years. We still do. I mean, I do have that building over there. But give Michael a call over at Custom Ornamental Ironworks. I mean, his phone number is 239-597-5374. That's Michael Slayden. Custom Ornamental. If you need anything, irons, gates, I mean, he does a lot of beautiful work.
He's been doing it for a long time.
I seen him. I went down on by there today. I told him to give him a shout out. on the radio, but I got to tell you, I mean, some of that stuff is very beautiful.
That's
I mean,
real ironwork.
yeah,
not
that's not
just-
something you buy from Home Depot, right?
Right.
Yeah, I told him, I go, well, listen, man, I got a gate that I want to put in. He goes, you didn't go buy it at Home Depot, did you? And I had to stop. I had to stop. I go, well, I was just getting some ideas, Mike. So you just don't take it for serious, Mike. I'm just being funny. You know me. I love you. So give Michael a call down. He's down on Seward in Washington Street, right off of our old stomping grounds, right, Brian? Oh, yeah. So he's a good guy, but I know you guys had some people shout out. We gave out a shout. Juan Silva's not here today. Hi ho, Silva. He's not here today, but we give a shout out to American Electrical on a daily basis. I mean that is my company, and we want to keep that company moving. And give us a call. Give Shelby a call at 239-353-4389. That's 239-353-4389. Give Shelby a call, and she'll be more than happy to give you a service call and take care of you. They're running a lot of specials right now on the LED lights. I mean, we're doing a lot of kit change out. So if you got some LED lights out at your home, garages that are still those old fluorescents, right, Brian? You got a couple of those in your back garage, right? And you want to change them out to LED, give Shelby a call at 239-353-4389. Surge protection's coming up, right, Brian? I mean, lightning is coming around again, and what we look for is a lot of lightning. And actually, it's been a lot quieter. I was thinking it was going to be a lot colder this year, but I think I'm kind of happy, Brian, that it didn't get so cold. But surge protection's coming around, so we've got some good things on automated GPSs over there with Juan and taking care of the Lutron stuff. So if you got anything you need done with Lutron, give us a call. Again, American Electrical, 239-353-4389. Gerald, I wanted to kind of go back to this last story about the I guess it's a final thing that you would do it on. I mean, I'm not saying final, but once you've HEPA-vac'd, right, and bagged everything, cleaned everything, scrubbed everything. I say scrub because I'm still thinking about those 10 little guys running around. But once you've scrubbed everything, I mean, there has to be, what's the process after that? I mean, you put everything back. I mean, where do you go from there?
I mean, from there, like I said, you're going to have to make sure that you treat it, encapsulate it. If there's AC work involved, you have to make sure you fog the AC system to introduce this antimicrobial into the AC ductwork, fog the unit itself. So it's.
Well, I mean, I heard you say fog. I mean, I remember last couple weeks ago about bombs. Remember, Brian? Bombs in the toilets. But it was a little bit different. You said fog.
Yeah,
what is in that fog?
So what it is the antimicrobial solution, and we have a machine that will produce a thin fog. And so what we do is we pull the filter, we use the machine to fog the air, and what it does is it pulls it across the coils. So inside that coil, you'll end up a lot of times with mildew, microbial. If it gets pulled from another area, that's usually where it gets trapped, is in your coil. And so it's going to pull it across that. It's going to kill it. A lot of times it's going to foam up, and it'll actually wash it out of those fins in that coil straight down into your pan, and you'll notice it out there at your drain outside. It'll foam up because it's really scrubbing it. But it's
so it physically foam up on the coil?
Correct. Sometimes it will physically foam up on the coil. And what it's also going to allow is the antimicrobial solution to pass through the coil. And because of the fan is going to pull this then through your whole ductwork. And you'll actually be able to stand anywhere in there and get this to where, it will actually scrub, clean the air in there. So it's going to kill all the microbial that may have been built up in there. Any kind of bad scenarios, bacteria, anything, this is going to kill all that that's in that ductwork.
Well, is it a good thing? I mean, I say this isn't a good thing to contract a HVAC or air conditioning company to, spray the coils down even closer up?
Well, this is going to flush out the coils because of the.
I know what you're saying. I'm thinking about a mist going through it, but on the other side, I know when I do a maintenance, Semper Fi AC, Johnny, you're out there. We're giving you a shout out, Johnny. But when they do a clean on it, they spray the coils, right, Brian? I'm just guessing. So you're going to have this side of it. Would it be something to deal with the air conditioning after that?
No, so you won't have to worry about cleaning the coils after that because, like I said, most of your contaminants are already going to be pulled out by that. Because once it starts foaming up in the coil, it's going to be similar to a coil cleaner, maybe not quite as heavy duty as a coil cleaner, but you're introducing an antimicrobial, and that's the key solution. So a lot of your coil cleaners, what they're actually doing is pulling out built up dust, built up bacteria, and then the biggest thing that builds up in your coil is mildew. And that's what people don't realize is because of how close those fins are and the amount of water that travels across that coil constantly, mildew builds up in there. And so what happens is this antimicrobial is actually going to break down this mildew and actually cause it to release itself from those fins, and it's going to wash down into your drain pan and eventually out your drain to the exterior of the home.
And remember, when an AC company cleans your coil, they usually shut your unit off. They spray it, let it foam, and they use either vacuum, some kind of a vacuum, or water squirt to try to rinse the coil off. What Gerald's talking about is actually puts it into such a fine mist that it will actually, you leave your AC running and it passes through the coil.
So it's already it's going to get an overall coverage.
It's going to be a much better.
Yeah, it's rather than some guy squirting a squirt gun in the back.
Yeah.
And then
we're not saying don't do your normal AC maintenance with your AC company, but
it probably would be best. I mean, not to say it from an air conditioning standpoint, because I would want the guy to go up and clean some. Well, I guess you're going to clean some of the returns off or some of the supplies. I'm sorry. But a lot of times you look up at those AC vents. I mean,
a lot of times you don't want them going in and cleaning the coil right after this stuff is applied, because you also don't want to go in there and spray a chemical that's going to take away
whatever. It's going to combat the antimicrobial effect. And we do have to pull the registers, the grills, everything like that. We do have to pull those.
Oh, so you clean all the grills?
That's part of the process that has to be done.
Yeah, I got to say, I mean, when you pull a grill off, a lot of guys won't put it back up, and then you don't caulk it. And I got to tell you, that's one of the things that I frown on, because I know what happens when you screw those grills back up in there is they don't get a seal like they did before, because you're screwing it back up in there, and that creates a problem, in itself for making it seal in between the drywall and that grill. So, from what you're saying, from a mold standpoint, I'm going at. With a mold standpoint, this is a 10-point checklist somewhat. You're going to go through and you're going to obviously do the steps that it takes to get, the home clean.
And look, he's going to go through those steps, because you got to remember, he's going to have to get that place cleared, right?
Yeah.
Before anything can be done.
Well, that's right. You just said it. So there's an inspection. Let me go back through that. Is that before the drywall goes up, or?
So there's a multitude of things there. After so many square feet, you are required to pull a demo permit with Collier County. And so once that demo permit is pulled, it does have to be inspected. Now, once you're cleared for your Collier County, at any point after you're done with your remediation, then you're going to have a post-test. And that's where the insurance company is going to send back that same air quality tester to come back in, and they're going to, from the exact same areas they took the test prior, they're going to do another air cassette reel, just depending on what kind of test they took. They're going to perform a post-test, and it has to fall below a certain guidelines on the parts per million spore count. Now, you're never going to completely zero out on your spore count. That's a given fact. It doesn't matter. You're always going to have some form, but you have below a certain parts per million that is acceptable with indoor environment.
It's in my mind, I think to myself, a lot of people get people that are not licensed, right? I'm just starting to think, on the side, to pull their bathrooms apart because they told the insurance company, I have a shower leak, right? I'm just kind of giving you an understanding of it. So, I have a shower leak. I got my insurance to give me $2,500. I'm just giving you a number. I'm going to go buy the tile. I'm going to go pull the drywall out. I'm never probably going to do what you just explained in the last 45 minutes on mold. I'm not, right? It's funny because a do-it-yourselfer, and we all know those, is going to do what I just said. He's going to take the drywall out, yank it out, throw it out. He's probably going to walk by the closet, right? And he's just going to tell the homeowner, hey, we took all the drywall out. We sprayed some chemicals, probably Clorox. I mean, I see that a lot.
And that is the stupidest thing to put on mold. Basically, what you did was change the color for 4 months.
Well,
You didn't kill it.
I'm giving you the understanding that your process of where it went from the start, right, Brian, from the finish line of what you're going to do. You got to get an inspection just on the air quality of the home. I guarantee that does not happen on 90% of the people.
No,
I'm just guessing.
And if they show up, and one of the things we have to have, depending on the volume of saturation, we're going to have air movers. At a given, on every one, we have to have a dehumidifier. You have to remove the moisture from this contained environment. That is a key thing. So if they're not setting up an air scrubber, and like I said, depending on the size of the job, it's probably going to be more than one air scrubber to rotate this air, remove all particles and microns. And you have to have a dehumidifier because you have to be able to pull all this moisture out, period. Because if there's any moisture left behind during this remediation process, then you really haven't done justice to the environment, and you're leaving the liability for the chance of another outbreak. Air movers, if there's a saturation rate that is very high in certain areas, you're going to need those air movers, because what they're going to do then is they're going to run air across that to help dry out and move that air to bring it to where they can pull the moisture out.
Well, listening to the last 45 minutes or so of the show about mold, it seems to be that people have to really kind of, understand the real process of what they have to do, right, Gerald? I mean, it's a process for mold because it's important. I'm sure from Matt's standpoint, my radio guy, that he's probably going to listen to this, and we're going to want him to understand what the process is to making sure it's done right? And part of what that is that, over in B&K, all right, you guys can take care of every step you have over there.
That's right.
And part of all that is that, if there's a drywall damage, if there's something you have to do, we have Sierra Binge Contracting, we have myself, American Contracting Services. We want you to give us a call. We want you to email us. We're looking for you guys if you have questions. If you have any questions about the mold again, send me an email at ac@theamericantrades.com. That's ac@theamericantrades.com. I welcome any time for you guys to give me an email over there at that email I just gave you. And Brian from Prevette Plumbing, don't fret.
Call Prevette.
What's that phone number, Brian?
239-596-5533.
That's right. And Gerald over in B&K, what's that phone number?
It's going to be 239-398-9834.
At American Contracting, if you got to give us a call, if you have any problems with contracting, you can give me a call. It's 239-719-1789. That's 239-719-1789. You can talk to Michelle. She's over there 24/7 sometimes. But she's my assistant. She can help you. So any contracting needs, give us a call at American Contracting. Gerald, what was you going to say?
I wanted to give a quick little shout out. So over there at Prevette Plumbing, we've started doing bulk water heaters for HOAs. If your HOA currently, needs water heater replacement, if you can get a bulk amount, a certain amount, we're going to give you a special discounted price, and this is for everybody before they go back home, to go ahead and get those water heaters changed out so you don't have to worry about them when you come back. And so, like I said, give us a call over there at Prevette Plumbing, 239-596-5533.
Brian, don't fret.
Call Prevette.
And call us over at American Electrical when you need electrical work. Give Juan a call in Shelby, 239-353-4389. 239-353-4389. Give us a call over to American Electrical. And a shout out to my wife. She moved over to William Rivas, downtown on 5th Avenue. So if you need a real estate agent, give Lorraine a call, 239-825-1260. That's 239-825-1260. She can take care of all your real estate needs. Well, fellas, it comes to a close. Easter's coming around, Brian. I'm going to get you on that Cadbury. So I want to welcome everybody to get them Cadburys. God bless America and Semper Fi.
Hoorah!